Hi everyone, we should now be live. Hopefully you can hear us. Sorry we're late. It's Dan's fault.
I like to think it's Microsoft's fault.
Well, it's someone's fault, and I know it's not mine. Oh yeah, it's the 200th episode next week as well.
Oh boy, I love meaningless stuff. Meaningless celebration.
Dan's in a good mood this afternoon. So we'll be starting in just a sec. We're just getting the tweet ready to go.
Tweet is out. And I'm retweeting it.
Testing 1 2 3. Testing testing.
Oh yes, I get
Testing 1 2 3. It's working. All right, I'm ready to go.
30 seconds. Gotta make sure Windows didn't redo my sound as it always likes to do. Of course it redid it.
Woo.
Testing 1 2 3. Testing recording. All right, I am now recording.
I am now recording as well.
3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Windows Central Podcast, episode 199 for October 9th, 2020. Hey everyone, Dan Rubino here, joined with Zach Bowden for another exciting episode of the Windows Central Podcast. This week, we'll talk about some Windows 10 news, including that sneak preview of the Windows 10X out-of-box experience, which apparently is going to be coming to Windows 10 itself. Zach will go down all that news and tell us why it's going to be kind of cool. Let's talk about Microsoft Edge. There were some neat announcements this week, mostly focused on shopping, almost 100% focus on those in the US because that's how Microsoft rolls, of course. We'll also talk about the Surface Duo update for October. As expected, Microsoft said they were going to be doing monthly updates for Surface Duo, which includes the Android security patch, and all eyes were on them to see if they could deliver it on time and quickly, and sure enough they did. We'll go over exactly what changed and still what needs to be done by them to make that device even cooler. And some other information we'll be talking about too, including some Xbox Series X stuff, I guess. And it's kind of a slow week, so not a ton of stuff. We had a bunch of announcements. There was AMD who came out with a bunch of desktop app news, which I suppose that's kind of cool. I don't like focusing on processor announcements only because it's always the same spiel. Here's our new thing. Here's a bar graph of how much faster it is than the last thing. You can buy it in 4 to 8 weeks. And it's like, I mean, it's cool. You know, I believe in AMD. And these new announcements for the 5000 series are desktop processors, which is the other reason I don't really cover it. I'm one of those people, I get a desktop processor. I stick with it for years. So I guess this is big news, but at the same time, it's like they don't come out till next month, which is fast. It's a hard launch. But still, it's going to be not that exciting. I don't know. Zach, how are you doing on this fine Friday?
I'm not too bad. I've been all week. I've been trying to weigh up whether or not I should order a Surface Laptop Go or Surface Pro X with the new SQ2, and I realised they're entirely different classes of products. But I'm only going to get one, and I don't know which one to get, and I'm so torn right now. This whole week I've been beating myself up. Which one should I get? Which one should I get? And I think I'm leaning towards the Pro X SQ2, but I don't know, man. I just don't know. I don't know.
It's a good choice. A lot of people are asking why I'm not wearing. Sorry, I have a Halls. I forgot we were recording live.
How unprofessional.
I know. Let's chew that. Get that out of the way there. A lot of people notice I'm not wearing my Surface earbuds. Zach knows the reason why I'm not wearing my Surface earbuds. I have them both in front of me, the white ones and the gray ones. but because of a what I presume is a Windows cumulative update, my Bluetooth is just gone to hell on this computer. I was using the earbuds and they were connected and everything sounded fine, and then all of a sudden they just disconnected, and that's infuriating. That happened a couple times, and I did reboot the PC twice, which was also an infuriating experience. And Skype itself, which we all know is garbage turning into worse garbage, also failed me a few times. So I'm just having a very miserable Friday so far with this podcast. I was almost ready to just be like, you know what, screw it, we're not doing the podcast.
That'd be so diva of you, Dan.
It really would. Yeah, when I get frustrated with something, I'm just like, I'm done, I'm out. So yeah, I'm wearing the wired ones, which I had to dig out and find. And because you don't understand, I have a pretty big standing desk and everything. So regular headphones aren't long enough for my computer to reach. So I bought an extension for my headphone jack, which I also had to kind of find. So I got to plug in the extension, which first of all, I got to reach around to the computer and then plug it. It's a nightmare. Doing stuff is, technology is great right up until the point it completely fails.
I thought you was about to say doing stuff is hard.
Doing stuff is hard. That's why, I always tell you about when I do my fasting. Like, for those who don't know, I do intermittent fasting. I've been doing it since around 2011. So I was way ahead of all you cool kids. So I've been a long time faster. And this week I've been pushing myself to 20 hours and then eventually even 24 hours of not eating. And then I eat for like 30 minutes and then I'm good. And to be honest, I really like it. Like mentally, I feel way better. I even exercise while I'm fasting. But the reason why I'm good at fasting, this just goes back to Zach's point, because I don't have to do anything. Fasting is like the laziest form of existence. It's like, I can't even bother to make myself food. So that's why I like fasting. It's just, it's easy. Speaking of, before we get to the main Windows Central news here, I need to find out, did you order, and this is the real important thing, by the way, not did you order a Surface Laptop Go or the Surface Pro X Gen 2, both of which we'll be having a lot more coverage on in the coming weeks. Did you order the Domino's cheeseburger pizza that you said you're going to order?
I did. And you were right. It was fantastic. It really did. It tricks your brain, right? If you shut your eyes, you're eating a burger. It's crazy.
It's insane. It has to do with the mustard that they put on, which sounds really crazy I know we're talking about Domino's cheeseburger pizza. If you missed it last week, we had a whole thing on it for some reason. I did order one that night as well. It then immediately I felt guilty because it is just not healthy for you. But once a month, twice a month, maybe for UFC, I'll order it. It's freaking delicious. We're not sponsored by Domino's, but we've put out the line out there. Domino's, if you just want to sponsor us and buy that, you can just buy us pizzas. We'll be totally fine with that. But let's move on from fasting and food to talk about real news. Let's go to the Windows 10 stuff. So what's happening in the world of Windows 10, Zach?
So as per usual, there was another build this week. Usually, they're not of that much importance. There's really anything huge going on in the new builds. And I mean, to be fair, that's kind of the case with this week's build. But there is a notable change in the out-of-box experience that they're sort of testing right now. So it's a graphical change. The actual functionality behind this interface change doesn't work yet. But the actual UI is in and they're testing it in this build. And what this essentially will allow you to do is customize your device as you're setting it up in the out-of-box experience. So it's not in the way you think. So you don't get to choose your accent color and your theme and stuff. It's not like that. What you're doing is essentially categorizing your device on this screen. So in the UI, it says customize your device. Select all the ways you plan on using your device. If you choose to tell Microsoft how you plan to use this device, we'll customize suggestions for tools and services during device setup and your welcome experience. So I assume this means including not just the screens you get as you're pressing next on the setup experience, but when you hit the desktop as well, like your tile interface will likely have a different layout depending on what you select here. And the categories so far are gaming, schoolwork, family, entertainment, creativity, and business. Microsoft doesn't really go into detail as to what these will change because, again, this isn't functional just yet. But if you tick on multiple, so I could tick gaming, entertainment, and creativity if I wanted, and that would customize my setup experience and the desktop to whatever Microsoft deems fit for those three categories. I could select all of them, or I guess I could select none of them as well, and Windows would just proceed as default. So this is a really interesting idea. Microsoft has been toying with the idea of sort of customizing the desktop during the setup process a little bit more. If you remember with 20H2, they've started implementing a feature that will detect your Microsoft account and automatically pin certain apps to the taskbar, whether it be your phone if you have an Android phone linked to your account, or the Office app if you have an active Office subscription. This is sort of taking that, but a step further. So I assume this will customize the entire start menu, maybe your theme, maybe your wallpaper, who knows. But this is what they're testing in the latest build. Again, it's not working yet, and we have no idea when it will start working, but this is an idea that they're experimenting with. And they say they look forward to sharing future improvements in this space. So I just want to go, what are your thoughts on this, Dan?
I mean, it looks nice, right? I think we need some changes here. So it's like, things are getting, I say stale with Windows 10. It's just,
I think stale is the correct term.
Yeah. I mean, but it's just like I find myself, one of the tough parts of my job, and one thing I love about my job, and that you guys should definitely know about, is like the things I cover is because I'm generally passionate about it. And so I haven't been covering or that interested in Xbox news, not because I think the Series X is like awesome, but it's just like, okay, it's a faster thing. And when it comes to Windows, it's been pretty kind of boring, and I think that's okay, but I think there's a lot more. The Surface Duo has been my thing, so I'm trying to say that I find a lot more interesting. But if they can do these changes to Windows 10, bring this stuff over from 10X, I feel like a lot of this stuff is, kind of Panos trying to reinvigorate Windows, make it more pleasing. I'm really hoping he brings discipline to Windows 10 in terms of, consistency. That's going to take a long time for us to see. But I'm glad to see these little modifications and changes happening, really kind of make this OS a little bit more modern. I feel like, though, ultimately there's only so much they can do to it because it is this monolith that's, what is it, 20, 30 gigs in size versus, I think you and I are both focused on 10X, what that's going to be like. That's for you and I, that like real future operating system.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, on the subject of changes and stuff coming to Windows 10, hidden in this is build 20231, by the way, in the dev channel. Hidden in this build is the Windows 10X out-of-box experience. We talked about it back in February, March time when the Windows 10X emulators came out, but in those builds, there was a brand new out-of-box experience with a clean user interface and stuff designed for Windows 10X. And in this week's desktop build, that interface is now hidden in this build. It wasn't included before, but you can do some hacky stuff and actually get it running on this build, which leads me to believe that Microsoft is bringing the new 10X out-of-box experience to the desktop at some point, which is quite exciting because I really don't like the current Windows 10 out-of-box experience. I think the color scheme and it's really sort of drab and it doesn't make any sense. If you set up Windows 10 on like a big screen like the Surface Studio, all it is just this tiny blue box in the middle with a dark background. It makes absolutely no sense. It's such a weird design, and it's also driven by Cortana. Which most people don't enjoy. So this
most people don't enjoy. I gotta see that with all the laptop reviews. You see that? I see it sometimes like 3-4 times a week.
Yeah,
it's just I have to mute her and just like just go through.
And it doesn't need to be said, but the new Windows 10X out-of-box experience doesn't have Cortana implemented, and that will likely be the case on the desktop version as well, because as far as I can tell, I've tried it out today, it's the same thing. It's the exact same interface. It doesn't have some of the shell icons and stuff because it's not using the new Windows 10X shell, of course, but the actual setup window is identical. The buttons are identical. The animations are identical. So yeah, and it doesn't have Cortana in there, so I don't expect them to bring that back. But yeah, so that's another sort of exciting thing that we know is coming to Windows 10. When Microsoft announced earlier this year that they will be bringing some Windows 10X innovations to Windows 10, I assumed that meant some of those UIs as well, and the Windows 10X out-of-box experience, that UI coming to Windows 10 desktop is very needed in my opinion. And hopefully we see more of that as time progresses. We've still got... Well, so assuming Let's look at the schedules here. So right now we're currently in the Windows 10 Iron phase of development, I want to say. I can't remember now. Either way, we're in the June to December phase of development for 21H1. So in December, Microsoft will RTM a build, and that will essentially be what becomes 21H1. But, excuse me, I don't think we're getting a 21H1 on desktop. It will RTM for 10X, and 10X will start rolling out in the spring. But I think desktop might skip this release, and we'll just get a big release in the fall of next year, 21H2, which means in theory we have until June of next year before Microsoft needs to finish up desktop and RTM it for a release in the fall. So we've got quite a while for Microsoft to actually implement a lot of this 10X stuff. We've not seen much of it yet. So far, we have the Windows 10X keyboard, the touch keyboard, the new emoji picker, and soon the out-of-box experience, which is quite a big one. Hopefully we see the new Action Center, because I think the Action Center is one of the better UI design changes on 10X that could very easily fit in on Windows 10. I don't know if we'll see the start menu. I think that's asking for a bit too much. But I think we will see rounded corners on app windows and on the start menu and live tiles and stuff, which will sort of give it a fresher look. And I think
I can match my rounded corners now on Xbox.
Yeah. And I think that will all be in time for the holiday 2021 release of Windows 10, which is RTMing in June, July-ish. So, although it doesn't feel like it, there is stuff to look forward to when it comes to Windows 10. I should do a write-up on this because I think a lot of people are losing hope. Windows 10 is just Windows 10 is in feature 2 phase, and I'm like, yeah, it does feel like that, right? Like, not much is going on in the dev branch of Windows 10. They announced all these changes to the Insider program, and nothing has come of it yet.
If there was ever a year for people to lose hope for Windows 10, it's 2020. It's the year you can lose hope for everything.
Yeah, you're right.
Oh, you want to watch movies? Sorry, you're not going to see any movies. Oh, you want to get in shape? Sorry, you're not going to gyms. Did you want to order a cheeseburger pizza? Yes, you can do that. That's good, at least. So that's the Windows 10 stuff, I guess. Yeah, you should do an article on that, though, and try to, talk about what you're hearing.
Well,
hopefully,
because I find it so frustrating because Microsoft could very easily come out and just say all of this. Like, they could say, right, here's what we've got planned for Windows 10 in 2021. But they don't, and they refuse to. And I've talked to people at Microsoft about this, and a lot of them basically say, well, we don't do it because we cannot commit to a roadmap because our deadlines and time frames are moving around all the time. We're putting features at the last minute sometimes. And it's always a bad PR story to announce a feature or announce a plan and then not deliver on that plan or deliver only on some of those things. That's why Microsoft never does this anymore. They got burned with the tab shell stuff, with the Windows tab stuff. And they don't do it anymore, which is why we don't get these roadmaps. And it's a real shame, like, because Microsoft kind of has an idea of what they're going to be delivering in 2021, and they could very easily tell insiders, right, here's what we've got planned, here's where we expect to be in 6 months, here's where we expect to be in 12 months. But they just refuse to do it because they can't hold themselves to those dates that they have internally because they can very easily miss those targets, and they do all of the time. And it's a nightmare for me who is writing about these features, and it's like, so this is scheduled for July 2021, but it probably won't come until December 2021. It's okay, well, there you go.
I feel like this company's run by me.
Yeah, do you know, it's like a bunch of slackers, like, we'll get to it.
That's how I run my life. It definitely, I mean, and stick a pin in that topic too, because we'll return to it with Surface Duo later on when we talk about those updates, because likewise, there's a roadmap for Surface Duo internally.
Wow.
In terms of features they want to add and things they want to do and improve. We don't know it. They sure as heck haven't shared it publicly, but I imagine it's the same reasons. And, we'll talk a little bit more about this later when we cover the Surface Duo stuff. I just want to give a quick also kind of two announcement little things here. If I can find it. Just because, stop with the notifications. Got a priority. I am going to be reviewing a new monitor. If you follow me on Twitter, you might have seen it this week. It's really fascinating because this is the LG, here we go, drum roll, monitor numbers, 38WN95C-W. Again, 38WN95C-W.
So you'd never see Apple name a products like that, would you?
Well, because Apple has 3 monitors.
Yeah.
How many monitors do they have? Just one. Really,
I think they've got just the XDR, right? Whatever it is.
So the only reason I review monitors, but this one is really interesting for me. I use the Razer Raptor 27 as my main one. That's like I actually bought that because I liked it so much. Um, this one though LG sent over for me to review, and it's interesting because this is an ultra wide. It's the 38 means it's 38 inches wide and it's curved. It's not as crazy as the Samsung one that's out now that like curves almost wraps around you. It seems like. Um, but what's neat about this one, my problem always with the ultra wides, where you're always sacrificing visual acuity and features. This one kind of hits all the numbers. So it's got Thunderbolt 3. Um, yeah, so 38-inch curved ultra wide QHD to 3840 by 1600. It's 98% DCI-P3. I haven't measured that yet, but that's high color accuracy. And of course, it's going to be 100% sRGB and all that kind of stuff. It has display HDR 600. So again, now we're getting to the kind of the cool stuff. You're seeing a lot more displays with HDR in them, but the ultra wides, those typically don't get those kind of features. So this has HDR 600, Thunderbolt 3 with 94 watts of power delivery. It has 140 hertz refresh rate. So again, that's a magic number. That's why I look for now in gaming monitors. 60 hertz, fine. But if you want to game, once you hit like 100 frames per second, 120 frames per second, that's the sweet spot. I think 200 and 300 is stupid, but this is a really good refresh rate. Means in 1 millisecond response time. So this is, you can game on this thing seriously. It's G-Sync compatible, AMD FreeSync compatible, and all that jazz. And the only downside is if I do this, I kind of move my table, the whole thing kind of shakes. It's on a very thin kind of pedestal. But I tell you, LG did and it's matte display too, anti-glare, which is of course my favorite thing. But yeah, if you're curious about what display I'm using, and the only other reason I'm bringing this up is because of power toys. So ultra wides are weird. I've never used an ultra wide before. This is my first time actually making it my daily. And it's disconcerting at first because it's so wide. And if you run single apps, it's just like it's just massive, right? So then you can snap apps, of course, but this is where the magic of Power Toys, the free app that Microsoft makes, it's on GitHub and all this kind of stuff. It's like a side project and has a lot of experimental stuff in there, but it has this one feature in it, which actually I forgot the name of it. It is called Fancy Zones. And I know a lot of people using Power Toys already know this stuff, but Fancy Zones allows you to set up pre-configured window splitting things. And on an ultra wide, now I get it. It totally makes sense to have this kind of setup. So I can have like 3 windows spread up, but I'll be reviewing this up in the coming weeks. Really good monitor though, and I kind of get ultra wides now. I'm still not sure they're better than having 2 displays with thin bezels, but I definitely get why having a single display like this is going to be kind of useful to have in life. Zach, you've used ultra wides before, right?
Yes, I'm a huge fan of ultra wides. Before I moved to the Surface Studio, the last monitor I used was an LG one. It was an LG 34-inch, I think it was. Okay. And I loved that thing. It had good tilt angles. It had an adjustable stand built into it. It wasn't the most expensive monitor they made, but it was a 2K resolution monitor, which was really important to me because most of the ultra wides at the time were they were high resolution on the width, but when it came to horizontal resolution, right, they weren't high enough. So Windows looked kind of really big on them. But this was, I think, one of the first monitors that had a 2560 by 1440, or it was 1440 horizontal, which was important to me, and that made Windows look way better on the ultra wides. I assume yours is what's the resolution on yours?
It is, yeah, it's a weird number. It's let's see if I can find it. Here it is. It is a 3840 by 1600.
Yeah, so that's way higher than what. So mine was 3440 by 1440, I think it was. So yeah, obviously yours is high resolution, but yours is also 4 inches bigger than mine was. Mine was only 34 inches.
Right.
So yeah,
I didn't do the PPI calculator.
Yeah. But like, I thought the 34-inch one was massive. Like, I thought, wow, this is like, I'm never going to need a bigger monitor than this. But here LG is now with a 38-inch.
Dude, that's nothing though. So I was putting this on Twitter, and someone reminded me Dell has a 49-inch. 49 inch.
Really?
It's basically equivalent to two 27-inch monitors as one monitor. Like it's two full, like you can actually run them as two, like that. Like that's the equivalent of it. You could, if you split it down the center, it's having two 27, I think two 27-inch monitors. And by the way, I'm not sick. This is the fall roared in here this week, and I'm all dried out from our heat turning on. So that's all that is. But yeah, it really gets interesting. And Power Toys has definitely helped out. Now I have actually like 3 windows that things snap to, and it's pretty cool. This also does do the dual input, so you can split it down the middle, have a PC on one side,
Oh,
and
nice,
like a laptop on the other.
Because it really is. It's like having 2 like 4x3 displays, right? Or even maybe a bit more than that. But yeah, like you could have essentially 2 4x3 displays side by side.
2 like 4x3s.
Yeah, yeah. Which I think is really cool. But you've said before that you're not a huge fan of ultra wides. You prefer multi-mon. Is this monitor changing your mind?
I see the benefits of it. I think it's easier to manage with 2 displays. You don't have to worry about Power Toys and setting things up, and you just snap stuff around. But there's obviously a clean look. But it's I don't know how it is for gaming either, right? So gaming on
it's immersive. It's very immersive.
Yeah. So I haven't even fired up any games on this. So I have Control, which I'm supposed to return to playing pretty soon, but I'm going to try that on here. So it's a fun thing. But yeah, I think the bigger point is like, yeah, curved and ultra wides are now getting to the visual acuity of single. And that was the other benefit of single displays that you ran side by side, is you can get like 3 27-inch 4Ks with HDR and all that stuff and run that all at once and get really high resolution. But when you went to the ultra wides, you're tending to drop down in the resolutions and things like ultra fast refresh and all that kind of stuff. But now they're kind of getting there, which, yeah, display technology is, I mean, we see it everywhere, right? Even in budget laptops is now getting really good. So all nice stuff there. And yeah, I definitely have a tickle in my throat. It is not COVID. I don't go out or I don't talk.
Maybe it floated through the window.
Yes, that's it. It's the only way I can imagine it float through my window. The other thing I just want to mention real quickly too, because I know people love wearables, and if you're watching the podcast now, you'll see this on my wrist. I'm running the Fitbit Charge 4, which I've always had, but next to it is the Amazon Halo, and I want to just talk about this for a minute, since we also don't have a ton of other topics on the podcast. Amazon Halo is super interesting. I probably don't recommend it, but one, I just want to point out, it's really funny when people joke around with Microsoft and buying products, and they're like, I don't want to pay to be a beta tester. Where meanwhile, that is literally Amazon's business model. So Amazon Halo is their new wearable. You can't actually buy it. You have to apply for the beta program. And then if you qualify or they pick you, they send you an email, and you basically have like 48 hours. And then you can order it at a discounted price, but you still got to pay for it.
Yeah.
And then you get to use it, and maybe you'll like it or not. And maybe if they get enough positive feedback, they'll actually release it to the public. But they don't always do that. And I think it's really interesting, because I'm actually okay with this, right? I'm okay with massive companies beta testing stuff for people who are openly beta testing. You and I have talked about on this podcast before regarding Surface Neo and Duo and any kind of experimental device that it would be kind of cool if Microsoft had an open beta insider program for hardware. Yeah. But the Halo, it's a okay wearable. First of all, it's super comfortable. It has no display on it, which I actually like. So I can wear it just with a regular watch, which is cool. Battery life's okay on it. It's an okay pedometer. It's actually doesn't match my Fitbit Charge, which is hilarious. But it has 2 technologies in it, which you don't need to use. And it's part of a subscription, although you get 6 months free. And they're super creepy. And this is one of those things I'm doing it for you guys. One of them is a microphone that's built on that always listens.
Oh.
And yeah, what it does is it gets voice samples and basically rates your tone. And this is actually a clever idea. Put aside the horrible privacy concerns of such a device, which I totally get, which is why I'm probably not recommending this. But conceptually, this is a really neat idea. the way you talk to people, and I'm really curious about the podcast, how it's going to record if it does that. The way you talk to people, your tone, some people are very positive and jubilant in the way they speak. Other people always end kind of in a monotone, or the sentences fall off at the end.
Yeah.
And it just sounds really depressing. Like so this gives you literal feedback on it, and you can actually do it live, which is pretty crazy. But I can see this is important for even relationships, just how people talk to each other. Like this thing is going to be able to like rate you and say you're being too negative.
Can it tell if you're being condescending and like tap you on your wrist, like stop it?
It doesn't do that. Oh, actually, so it recorded me at 2:39 or 2:59. Oh, that was 2:59 a few minutes ago. It said I was most negative. Oh, holy cow, Zach, dude! It says condescending.
Oh wow, look at that! Jesus, stop being so condescending, Dan.
So yeah, if you're watching this on a podcast, you can kind of see
incredible. This is so weird.
Yeah. So it said I was condescending early afternoon, condescending, irritated, or stubborn. At 2:39, it said I was irritated, condescending, irritated.
Well, this app's going to give you a reality check.
At 2:38, it said I was friendly.
Oh.
Around noon, oh no, it was overnight. Oh, this was late last night. It says I was amused. It has highest energy. But yeah, so like this thing, and so it randomly samples you during the day, basically. But you can also like force it to go live, and you can actually do like a live. I can actually show you that. But
so it's kind of similar to, if you remember back at, maybe it was Build, I can't remember where they announced it, but they announced in PowerPoint, they announced the presentation coach, where they have an AI inside PowerPoint now that when you're narrating, it will actually tell you like, oh, you need to talk a bit more positively, or you need to up your atmosphere a bit because you sound very monotone and stuff. It's similar to that, right?
Yeah, I mean, so it's not like it's not just Amazon working on this. Google's working on it, Microsoft's working on it. This idea of tone analysis, and I mentioned this actually on the podcast a few weeks ago with customer service reps. If you work for some of these companies, they actually have software that is monitoring them and how they deal with customers, and they get a very similar feature where it rates them on irritability, condescension, how happy they are, do they dominate the conversation, not let the customer speak, do they cut off and all this is automated through basically AI. And yeah, I mean, that's again kind of creepy. But if you're thinking about it, if you're a company and who has not had a poor customer service experience from a person who didn't seem like they really want to help you, were irritated, you feel like you got mad for asking a question or something like that. So like, I can see the value in this, and especially with personal relationships. I think it's interesting, but it's also creepy. Do you trust your data with Amazon? Now, to be fair to Amazon, they made their policies here pretty explicit, which are, the stuff goes to the cloud and then gets deleted. No humans ever see it. It's all done through computers, and you can delete your data from the device at any time you want to. So there's that. Now the question is, of course, do you trust them, right?
Yeah.
And there's also, what happens if someone hacks this?
Yeah. And like, I'm not saying Amazon will do this, but like, if the technology exists, they could not Amazon but any company that could build a software like this could easily program it so that like it listens to your conversations, and if you're having, say, negative thoughts and thinking of bad situations, it can automatically call someone for help. Or if you're talking about crime and doing illegal things, it could also call the police on you. Like, how far does this go until it's like?
Well, I mean, and going back to the customer service thing, it kind of does do that already. When I know there are some services for the customer, that is when you call the company and you go through the voice prompts, it analyzes your voice and determines if you're irritated, happy, or so when the customer service rep answers, they actually get basically a frowny face, or they get like a little thing saying like this person's really angry.
Yeah.
So they know how to talk to them, which is probably really helpful, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. I mean, this stuff is like, it's both useful. It could make us a better society, and it goes back to that Black Mirror episode, Downfall, was it? The
I can't
one where
remember.
it's the one where everybody has those contacts in
Yeah, and he sort
and
of calls
it rates
everything. Yeah.
everybody. Yeah. Like it is that. And it raises these questions about what kind of society do we want? Do we want these kind of things? So that's in the voicing. There's a button on this. If you hold it, it turns red. It turns off the mic. I can turn it on and off anytime I want to, assuming, of course, it's still trusting the system that it's actually off and not hacked, right? So I just want to mention that because I think it's really cool, but obviously Amazon privacy features. But if you thought that was creepy and weird, let me tell you about this other feature, the body scan feature. So I have a Withings scale, which was it was a Withings scale. Then Nokia bought it, so it's a Nokia scale now. But Withings bought it back, so now it's Withings. But that scale is one of those body fat measurement ones. So you step on it, and it runs an electrical impedance through you, and based on your weight, your height, and your age, it tries to determine your body fat analysis, which is super important for people trying to be in shape or lose weight because it's not your weight that's important. Because if you're 6'4", it's okay to be 200 pounds. If you're a big dude. If you're 5'3", probably not a good idea, right? So it's all relative. So that technology's been out. I have a Fitbit scale too, and I've always kind of compared them a bit. And all this body fat measurement stuff goes. There's calipers. You can go into a water displacement tank, which no one has in their house, but athletic places have this, where you sit in water and then it displaces it, and it can get your body fat that way. There's also a DEXA scan. It's literally like a CAT scan thing. You go into, scans your whole body, and actually basically can measure that. That's the most accurate. But again, how many of us are making appointments regularly, right, to go do that? I can't even go see a regular doctor. So what this does, what Amazon has done, and this is super creepy, you set your phone down and let it take 4 photos of you.
Oh, man. That's a privacy nightmare.
Yep. Takes 4 photos of you in your underwear. So front, sides, and back. And then based on your height and your weight and your age and your gender and AI, it determines your body fat from that, which, to be fair, is visual analysis is one of the better ways of measuring body fat, or at least getting an estimate versus the electrical impedance stuff. Again, same thing. It goes to the servers, then gets deleted. And there's an option for cloud backup, which is hilarious. So you can share your devices. That's off by default.
Yeah.
And of course, you can delete your data at any time and all those kind of things. I have done it. It is as creepy as it sounds. I just love talking about this stuff because this is the age we're living in right now. We're getting to this kind of weird technology and AI.
I feel very uncomfortable.
Yeah. But if this proves, and there is this, I do feel it is more accurate than my scale.
I assume so. But that doesn't mean it's a better choice.
Right. And so this gets into this question, especially in a society where we're becoming more less active, and people are gaining more weight and having a real time, managing that kind of stuff. How do you use technology to make people's lives better? And this is definitely one way to do it. But I guess the only way it could be worse is if this was Google, I suppose.
Yeah, not wrong. So I guess since you've used both, you've done the Amazon one, and I guess you've used the scales as well. How far off is each?
Right, great question. A lot.
Oh, really?
which was super depressing, by the way. All right, I'll throw out my numbers here. So I weigh 160 pounds, which I'm technically down from around 170 when I was working out, 5 times a week, kind of my high point of last year. And I'm barely exercising now, so I feel like I'm a candle that's just melting. All right. Anyone who knows gets an athletic build, if you just stop working out for like 6 weeks, like it literally just goes away.
Yeah.
It's super depressing. If The Rock stopped exercising right now,
you deflate.
You deflate. Like it's really hard to maintain that, you know? So I've been very conscious though of, especially with the pandemic, my weight is I've been very consistent at 160, which that's been my like threshold, right? Um, and so the scales say around 15% body fat, uh, which I was okay with. My lowest I've gone down using scales is like 11%. Um, and I was really low, right? I mean, that's
Yeah.
like when you get down there, you get really lean. Uh, the Amazon said I was 19 and 20%,
It's a bit more.
which that was, and to be honest, I kind of feel like the Amazon is probably more accurate because I'm getting more skinny fat right now.
Yeah.
It's just like, um, because I'm not carrying around as much muscle anymore. I'm just, not there. Uh, so it's interesting. So now I need to watch. I'm going to be doing new scans over the coming weeks, and
You're going to be
nine,
obsessed with this, aren't you?
a little bit, a little bit. Look, it's hard being an American and not getting overweight. It's like, I mean, we were just talking about cheeseburger pizzas. So this is a struggle. And I've always been thin my entire life. So I'm lucky in that sense. But I'm also like most humans. When I hit my 30s, that was like a brick wall for my
Yeah.
metabolism. Like I started just like looking at ice cream and started gaining weight. Um, and so it's a tough thing. But if it keeps me, and yeah, this is the whole thing, right? Body dysmorphia is a big problem, right? People
Yeah.
overreacting and um, I don't know. There's no right answer here. I'm not even suggesting anyone should go buy this or try to enroll in it because I'm happy to be a guinea pig for it because I kind of don't care.
Yeah.
But I feel like most people should care, both about the health stuff, but also about the privacy stuff too, right? So I don't know. It's a weird time. It's a fun time to go into technology. I figure people listening to this podcast would be kind of interested in that because wearables, we all have kind of wearables these days, whether
Yeah.
it's a Fitbit, you have your well, what are you using? Oh yeah, you're on the new Fitbit. Actually.
Yeah, I'm using the new Fitbit right now. I go between this and the Galaxy Watch Active too.
Sure. And speaking of, I just want to quickly plug Michael Fisher, Mr. Mobile, did review the TikTok 3 watch, which is a Google Wear watch. And the only reason I'm mentioning this is because it's the first one to run the new Qualcomm 4100 processor in it. And it made a world of difference. He doesn't actually like the watch. He feels the design is just meh. But the performance of it, he says, this finally makes Google Wear like something he wants to use. And it gets 3 days of battery life, like hardcore battery
Oh,
life.
nice.
So there may be not necessarily that device. It's only $299, which is not a bad price. But he's hoping for Fossil and all these other companies to make their watches. And so that's going to be something to look out for the next few months if you're interested in wearable space. So look for this Qualcomm 4100 processor. Because if you have a Surface Duo or anything like that, those are the kind of things you want to wear. Also mentioned the Halo does work with Android or iOS. I just have it on my iOS device because that's the one I use all my health stuff on. It just sits around here collecting all my data. But that's a brief overview of that kind of cool stuff. I just want to, I don't know. I think it's fun to share tech that we're using. Do you have any cool tech besides your Fitbit that you're
Not that I
using?
can think of. No, nothing groundbreaking like the Amazon one you just mentioned. I mean, in general, tech in general, I'm currently using Microsoft's new keyboard that they announced
Oh,
last
yeah,
week.
that's right. Yeah, talk about that.
Yeah, this is a nice keyboard. My review's coming next week on it, and it was going to be this week. It was supposed to come out today, but only yesterday did I realize that this was supported by the Microsoft Keyboard and Mouse Center. And that changes a lot of things, because some of the issues I had with this keyboard, mainly some of the buttons along the top being the shortcuts to what they were, you can actually change them and stuff. So that's really cool. So my review's coming next week once I add the mouse and keyboard bit. But basically my TLDR for that will be, I really like the keyboard, but it takes a few days of getting used to. I came from the Surface keyboard, which was a full-size keyboard. This is a full-size keyboard, it's just missing the number pad. But that the Surface keyboard had 2mm of key travel, which is really nice. I think that's the perfect sort of key travel for a desk keyboard. This only has 1.35mm of travel, which is much more similar to a laptop. And that took some getting used to on my desk because I felt like I was pushing too hard and bottoming out way too quickly. But after a few days of adjusting to it, I actually really like how this keyboard feels to type on. I like how it sounds. You probably can't hear it, but if I'm typing on it here, it's a chiclet style keyboard. I really like the sound and the feel of it. It's very flowy, so it's like you can quickly just easily tap on the keys and stuff. My biggest complaint with it is that it's missing a dedicated print screen button. So you can't do Windows key print screen. You have to press the dedicated screen snipping tool button, which I'm not a huge fan of, but that's the sacrifice you make when you lob off half the keyboard, I guess. But yeah, it supports things like Smart Switch, so you can pair up to 3 different devices, which is super nice as well. And I just like the look of it as well. It's a very minimalist keyboard. I got it in Glacier White. It comes in black as well. And it has the emoji key, which they actually officially call the expressive key. And you can program it to be the emoji panel on Windows 10 or the Office app or an application of your choice, which I think is really cool.
That's kind of nice. Yeah, because on the full-size keyboards, they have an Office key and the
emoji key. Yeah.
Well, that's kind of nice. Yeah, 1.3 millimeters that's a standard good Ultrabook keyboard.
Yeah. Oh, which that's fine on a laptop. Like I don't have any issues with that on the Surface laptop and stuff. But it was just a weird adjustment for me when I'm sitting at a desk because I guess when you sit at a desk, you're at a different angle and stuff. And that just for the first couple of days, I felt really tired typing on it. It's like, man, this isn't great. But after a few days, I got used to it, and now it's fine.
Finding the right keyboard. Yeah. As someone who reviews keyboards, is hard.
Yeah.
Like, as soon as, I'm using the right now. Was it the Razer Huntsman Mini, which I reviewed? It's a 10 keyless. It's just as small as yours, but it's a full travel.
Yeah.
Mechanical switch, and I love this thing, but it doesn't have arrow keys, which kills me. So I have to do a 3-key combo just to do an arrow, which is kind of annoying. But yeah, finding the right keyboard is definitely a challenge out there, especially if you get into switches and all that kind of stuff. I'm always jumping between them, and it's definitely hard to choose. Quick correction, someone did point out it's not the TikTok watch, it's a Tick watch.
The TikTok watch.
Kids in your Instatalks and Tickgrams, I don't know what's going on. Yeah, so that's that. All right, let's pivot away now and talk about Microsoft Edge.
Wow.
Yeah, now my Amazon's going to rate me and be like, why are you so negative? Edge had a few big stories this week and things coming out. Do you want to tackle? I'll do one and you do the other.
Which one do you want to tackle?
I'll take the money one with the collections.
Sure.
I use.
So that's sort of two-piece announcement. There's collection stuff. There was also some changes to the new tab page, which I guess I'll mention briefly here. So Microsoft announced some updates to how you can customize the new tab page. Users will soon be able to set their own wallpaper as the new tab page background. Right now, you can use it. You can set it as the Bing Daily, or you can download a theme from the Chrome store. But not everybody wants to download a theme, right? I just want to set a wallpaper. And so
Wonder Woman 1984.
Yeah,
that's the first theme.
Yeah, and it's a good theme as well. But yeah, you assume you have to just set a wallpaper if you want, which is super nice. Microsoft is also adding a Meet Now button to the Microsoft Edge new tab page, similar to the Meet Now.
So when you hit it, you get meat delivered to your house?
Yeah, exactly. Everyone's dream, right? No.
Clever.
So Meet Now, obviously powered by Skype. So Skype has this feature where... yeah, sad face, Skype. Skype has this feature where you can instantly create a room and invite friends to it to have a video call or an audio call. Sort of to compete with Zoom and stuff. It's super easy to set up. I tried it the other day, and it's a few clicks. You press on the Meet Now, it takes you to the Skype website. It all happens in the browser, so you don't have to download a program. You get to name the room, and then you get the invite link, and then you can send that to your friends, and everyone just joins. And it's actually really straightforward. It's actually really nice, which is hilarious because it's a Skype product, but it works. So yeah, those are the announcements they made to the new tab page, and then they also announced some stuff with Bing rebates, but I'll let Dan tackle the collection stuff first.
Right. So if you've used Edge and used a collections feature, collections I think is really, really cool. Zach doesn't use it, which is why I'm doing this part of the story. But I explained to him as you go into adulting, you need to buy lawnmowers or trees for your backyard. And basically, if you have a project you're working on and you're evaluating different things and you want to come back to it later, the old way, of course, you would do favorites. But favorites, it's not a great way to organize. My favorites become a graveyard that later, have trouble finding everything and organizing. So collections basically allows you to create a new folder and then save stuff to, and it's just really well organized. So what they're doing with that, they're augmenting it. So they've already added Pinterest to it, although that's rolling out now to everybody. But what they're adding now for those in the US is sorry, my old cat here is joining the podcast. What they're adding is this feature where if you saved multiple items on, say, from a storefront, and it has the price, it's going to give you, like, basically scan the page, and it's going to put the price by the item. And this is really good if you're doing, like, say you're researching, like, I'm looking at trees for my yard and which trees to buy and what they cost, all that kind of stuff. So I can, like, have each of those trees in my collections, and then I can see the live prices, and it's live. It basically updates dynamically. And so I can just kind of open my collections and see if anything's kind of changed, or get an idea, come back to it. I've talked about in this podcast endlessly about my watch phase I'm in right now. Same thing. I have a lot of watches, and now I'll be able to just see the prices. So it's US. No, is it? It's not US only, right? That feature. It's US currency only.
I believe that's correct. Yeah. I can double check. Keep talking. Let me see if I can get the answer here.
So I think it's rolling out, and it's going to go through the Canary ring first, and then Dev and all that kind of stuff. So if you're on the Edge Insider builds, you'll see this, and you can install multiple Edge Insiders. By the way, you can have Canary, Dev, and Beta installed on your machine and switch between them at will. But so it should be going out to all users worldwide. It doesn't really matter, but the currency, from what we understand, it's going to be US dollars now.
Yeah, that's correct. They say currently works with USD, and we plan to add additional currencies in the future.
Yeah. So. But I think this is I talked about this before, where we live in an age of very dense information. We have so much info. Like now when you go to buy something, you can literally sit there and research it for a couple of weeks and just have a ton of things to compare to. And it's hard, whether you saw a news story a few weeks ago on a topic, but you forgot where it was and who was the author. How you retrieve that from your history is super important, but also stuff like this, I think, is really important in terms of helping people shop and manage information. I think it's a clever idea. Between this and the the vertical tabs. Vertical tabs. That's in Canary right now. By the way, vertical tabs on an ultra wide monitor is awesome. I could literally have Edge open, and I could have vertical tabs open on one side, and then I can have collections open on the other, and still have the center just dedicated to web browsing and have tons of space. But if you're really going into like a serious browsing session, really cool to be able to sort of do that. So I'm happy to see these kind of tools coming out.
Yeah. Is that everything with collections? I think they also announced Pinterest general availability. Because they announced this, I want to say earlier this year, they announced Pinterest integration.
Yeah, I don't use Pinterest, or I signed up for one time, and now I get emails every once in a while. Here's that one thing you looked at, we're updating. I'm like, I don't really get Pinterest, but a lot of people do. They do very well for themselves. So.
Oh, one thing I missed. Microsoft is also announcing that Edge is getting a web capture feature. So essentially a screenshot tool within the browser that will allow you to take screenshots of web pages, which I guess is good for students who are researching certain topics and need to embed that into Word documents or whatever else, which is nice. But the other thing they sort of announced is the general availability of Bing rebates. Which is a service that apparently was around for a while, but it's now, as I mentioned, generally available. It's US only, and it's designed to sort of help you earn some cash back when you're buying from merchants online when you use Microsoft Bing, which is now officially called, by the way. They did rebrand it from Bing to Microsoft Bing. Because why not? But yeah, so this ties into Microsoft Rewards. It has the same sort of Microsoft Rewards backend and stuff. And it once you've signed up to Bing rebates and stuff, whenever you search the web with Bing, if you're looking for a product to buy, say I search for Surface Laptop using Microsoft Bing, on the search results page, it will actually say that, hey, this is eligible for Bing rebates. If you click on it, it will let you know that the rebate is being activated. You go through and complete your purchase, and then you get back whatever the rebate was offering. That takes up to 90 days, though, apparently. So once you've confirmed the purchase and the merchant confirms with Microsoft that, yes, the purchase was successful, then it takes 90 days for that to actually show up into your Microsoft Rewards account for deposit into your PayPal. So you can actually turn this into real money. It doesn't turn it into Microsoft Reward points. There's this actual real cash that you can then export to your PayPal and then put into your own bank account or whatever, which is super nice. And the Microsoft Rewards website as well will even recommend current deals and rebates that you can take advantage of right now from Microsoft, Walmart, AT&T, etc. So that's really quite interesting. US only, unfortunately, but that's usually the case with Microsoft services. But then Microsoft also announced that Give with Bing now includes over 1.4 million non-profit organizations across the globe. For those who don't know, Give with Bing is a charity sort of service where you can convert your Microsoft Rewards points into donations for one of those 1.4 million charities. And Microsoft says that they've now donated over $1 million in points since the Give with Bing campaign started. And Microsoft is now matching all donations up until December 31st. So that's really nice as well.
Yeah, very cool. Obviously I use a lot of the Bing rewards and all that kind of stuff. I've used rebates before. I forgot how to track it. I think you can get deposits to your Microsoft account too.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, the example they used is to PayPal, but I wouldn't be surprised if you can deposit into your Microsoft account as well.
Yeah, I mean, as someone, I do almost all my shopping online.
Yeah, same.
As I mentioned earlier, I don't like going out. But like this is like, I don't know. I just like the control, the ease. It's just so much nicer. And having these, there's Rakuten, there's all these other services out there that do the same thing with rebates and finding prices. I use Honey, and Microsoft works with Honey too. Honey is you can install the plugin in Edge on PC, but on Android and iOS, it's actually built into Microsoft Edge. It's an option you can turn on. It's up there with NewsGuard and ABP for ad blocking. But I like this of Honey basically. When you're on a page, it does one of these things where it just tells you is that the lowest price on the internet. It also allows you to track pricing. So it'll let you know when pricing has gone down. You'll get an alert if there's a price drop and all this kind of stuff. These tools are, they're very important for people's daily lives in terms of trying to help them save money and get the best deal. It's also the extension of a very consumer-focused society, which is obviously what we are, for better or worse. But I feel like there's even more work that can be done here. There's like AI, machine learning, all this kind of stuff, learning topics about what you're interested in. We already see it, things that if you're already on Instagram and you scroll through, my ads are so personalized, it's creepy. I almost spend more time on Instagram looking at the ads than people's photos, which is probably unhealthy. That's why I don't use Instagram very much anymore. But yeah, we're getting to this sort of it gets back to this idea of like you're being tracked, everybody's monitoring you, but it gives you, there's a lot of pros to it too for users. So yeah. I like these ideas. I think it's good. I think the giving thing is really nice. Microsoft always likes to take that spin of, ways to give back and make donations and, it's tax write-offs and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, here's a tip that I use, which is, so on Amazon, again, I do a lot of Amazon shopping. There's the Smile Amazon, and it's free. You sign up for it. You pick the charity or organization you want to donate to, and that's the default. Mine's to the ASPCA, Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. And the problem is if you go to Amazon.com and make a purchase, it doesn't work. You need to go to smile.amazon.com, then make your purchase. Yeah. What Amazon does is, out of your purchase, they donate a percentage. They match a percentage towards the organization. You don't actually get charged for it. It's really nice. So there's a plugin. There's plugins you can get for your browser that automatically redirects you to smile.amazon.com every single time, so you don't have to remember to do this. And so all my browsers now do this. When I type in Amazon, it just goes right to there and make a donation, which is really cool. As someone who spends a lot of money on Amazon per year, I end up giving this one organization a couple $100 almost just for that. So there's a lot of cool tips like that out there. Mm. All right, so that does it for the Edge stuff. Should we tackle the fun big story?
It finally arrived. The Surface Duo October 2020 update, and it
finally
fixed
arrived.
Everything.
So
not everything.
Well, let's talk about the positive stuff here first. The Android security update for October is dated October 5th, and Microsoft put out this update on October 6th.
That's very quick in the Android world.
As far as I know, I'm not even sure if any other phones have gotten their updates this quickly.
Pixel, but that's to be expected. Yeah, Pixel maybe the S20 started getting it. Maybe not. I can't remember. If not,
I know
maybe OnePlus.
I know my Note 20 Ultra hasn't.
No, well, then maybe not then, yeah. Because Samsung can be hit and miss. Sometimes they're on the money with it, with the security updates. Sometimes they really miss. So they're hard to sort of guess. OnePlus, I think, sometimes are on the money with it. But again, they're not consistent with it. So, excuse me. So far, Microsoft has been 100% on the money. But let's be fair. This is their first update.
So that's a really good point. So there's the official changelog, which we'll kind of go through here in a minute. But I was able to, and that changelog is like every other changelog. It's bullet points.
Yeah.
It's more stable.
Yeah.
Like that kind of stuff. But I was actually able to sit down with Microsoft and go through and explain what these changes are, what actually was fixed and all that. But I did get to ask some questions, including they're supposed to do monthly updates, and they said we're going to be doing monthly updates. And I got them on the record again saying, are these updates something we should expect like the first week of every month? And they said yes. They're committed to that time frame. They're very confident they're going to be able to meet those monthly deadlines. They said we have a very good team here. We're confident. And so far twice, because there's a day one update that everybody gets.
Yeah.
But that too came in early September, I should say. And now they've done it twice with this October one. So that means, for November, that first week in November, we should get another update in 1 December. These updates are going to be a mix. You're going to get the security patch from Android, which is not exciting. It's important, but it's not exciting. There's going to be fixes from Microsoft, which are very important, actually. And then there'll be new features. And we don't have much more to say on that. I do know Double Tap to Wake is coming. They've been testing that. But we don't know anything else, camera improvements and, are they going to fix the screenshot thing where you can pick one side to capture instead of both. So there's definitely a lot there. We don't know what that roadmap is, but they did say new features will be arriving via this method. And so we'll have to kind of wait and see. So I feel like they do have this program down, and it's very exciting to get, part of this Surface Duo is meant to be sold to enterprise and business. Being able to sell this as a device that gets monthly updates basically the day after or soon thereafter Google publishes is an important selling point. I know my Samsung, I don't mean to throw them under the bus, but my Note 20 Ultra, 3 weeks it takes around for them to get the security updates pushed. It's not terrible, but it's obviously not the same. But that goes back to some of those other issues, the pros and cons of Duo. Microsoft said they're not forking Android on this device. As a result, the features and new things that everybody kind of wants takes longer because everything they're doing is within the frames of official Android, and it goes back up through Google. Again, other OEMs can use it, so it takes a longer time, and they can't do as much customization. The benefit is they get to do these monthly updates basically day after Google announces their stuff. And so, because they're not modifying the code significantly, so it's easier to pass. We should also mention AT&T is supposed to get their updates next week.
Yeah.
Again, it's a week behind, but still pretty quick for their verification. Now let's get into, I guess, what actually changed. Because there's a lot of general stuff here. One is improves Facebook Messenger single screen experience.
So that's to do with chat bubbles, right?
Yeah, so they call these floaties. Now,
Right.
I don't use Facebook, so I have no idea about this. But apparently what would happen is when you go into Messenger, a lot of people would flip their phone around to phone mode, so you just have one display on. But some of the features in Messenger would span to the second screen, which is not on now, and you wouldn't be able to access it. It's a very specific problem.
But it's
very
fixed.
specific, but it's fixed. Yeah. So, I mean, it applies, I guess, to other apps.
I think it applies to everything that uses a chat bubble feature, which is actually an official thing in Android 11. but
Okay.
app makers can actually enable it on their own apps in Android 10, I think, which is what Surface Duo is running. So, and Facebook is one of them. I've actually seen this issue in other UI bits as well. Like, and it's still the case on the October update. In Telegram, you may have noticed in Telegram, if you tap and hold on a message and you're using on single screen, the actual menu that pops up will go across both screens. And if you're using the right display in single screen, you can't actually see the options because all the options are on the other screen. But yeah, like there are, and that happens. I think that happens because unlike other dual screen phones, the Surface Duo treats the two displays as one display. So when you fold it back into single screen mode, what you're really doing is just turning off that other display. And Microsoft has done its best to sort of tell the operating system to only show on the one screen by shifting everything over, but it hasn't caught everything yet. And chat bubbles was one of the things they missed, and that was still just treating the whole two screens as one screen, even when you was in single screen mode. And they're slowly but surely getting around to fixing that. The same with the screenshots. When you take a screenshot, it takes a screenshot of both displays, even though you're only using one display. Again, I've been told that that's something that they're tracking and they're working on a fix for it. It's just because of these little bits and pieces that they've missed when it comes to coding the feature that turns the display off on the other side.
Yeah, and it's a really good point. They were upfront about it. They said, we did a lot of internal testing, but until you get this device out to people's hands and they start installing all their apps and start using it daily, there's going to be stuff we missed. And that's exactly what happened here. It's not that they weren't looking for it, but that's a very specific thing. So they're very much aware of it. They're listening to feedback. It gets back into this other thing. They improved call stability and experience. Pretty generic sounding. But I remember when Duo came out, people were getting it. Some people were saying on certain carriers that they're having issues with phone calls, like it was hanging up on them. They would drop the call, and they thought it was getting poor reception, which is a logical thing. You're on a phone call, and it disconnects. Like, why did I drop my call? It wasn't dropping. It's not the poor reception. There's a sensor. It's called a Hall sensor. Laptops have these. Any device that closes has it. And it's what detects the device being closed to shut off the displays. It's basically a little magnet system. What was happening was, they call it like errant noise, was basically tricking that sensor. So you'd be on a call and some kind of interference from the world around us was causing that sensor to trip, acting like the phone was closed so it would hang up the call. Which is, again, a very specific thing. They didn't see that during their testing. I've never had that happen, by the way. A lot of this stuff, I should point out, is not like obvious. So I've used this as a phone quite a bit, and I've never had a call disconnect. But I did see other people who did have that. And so this fixes that problem too. They call it transient noise, which is kind of funny. Improves touch stability is another one. So this was obvious, I think. Almost all the reviews for Surface Duo pointed this out. I mentioned in my review too, that the touch sensitivity wasn't right there. There's nothing really specific to say here. We did mention the touch driver got updated, and it has to do with, it's related to the device waking up or being unlocked and the touch display not responding right away, or users couldn't answer a phone call, and just general issues with interacting with the UI. I should say I'm still having occasional. It looks like sometimes an app falsely spans, and it's like shadow remains almost. Because when you open an app and it scoots your icons to one side.
Yeah.
I've had that happen, and then the icons. But I'm on the desktop, the home screen. My icons are still scooted to one side, like there's a fake app there.
Yeah.
And I can't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's still these little quirks that need to be worked out. Improves device stability. Here's another generic one. This is more global. Reviewers and some users complained that the display wallpaper would randomly disappear.
Yep.
I have seen that. And I've heard others complain about that. It's, again, not common. I've had it happen like twice maybe. But yeah, I've had I turn on my device and my wallpaper is just black, just gone. It comes back, but that's been fixed. General system responsiveness was sluggish when the device was waking and unlocking. I've seen that. I think I've still seen that, but it seems better. And I've had this where one display doesn't turn on for me, or I have to turn off and
Yeah,
on again.
I have that. Yeah.
So that stuff's been fixed too. And then there's just general fit and finish stuff. One of them is really funny. For the app notification drawer, I didn't write I wrote draw, not drawer. Um, it said clear all for the notifications, but it was all capitalized for some reason.
Oh, so what is it? Not capital anymore?
It's capital C for clear.
Oh yeah,
Then,
I didn't even notice that originally.
yeah.
What a weird
so
thing for them to change. I thought that was by design, like clear all.
Yeah, right. Why is it yelling at me? And then there were some improvements to SwiftKey, which I think
I needed.
probably were already in SwiftKey beta,
Yeah.
which I'm already using. A lot of people are using too.
Yeah.
And they said all this stuff is going to be continued to be improved in these updates every month. I think they still have a ton of work to do.
Oh, for sure. Like I feel like this update actually introduced a couple more issues. One, Twitter for me now crashes a lot. I'm seeing 2 or 3 crashes a day now on Twitter. I wasn't seeing any before. Mainly, it's not just when using Twitter. It's if I click into a video and then click out of a video. It's when I leave the video is when it usually crashes.
Got it.
But just generally using it seems fine.
I've seen that. I can't say it's happened to me a lot, but I have seen it happen twice. I did tell Microsoft about it and took a note down. So, yeah, there's for a lot of people, at least on Reddit, who are using the Duo, for a lot of people, this has made a lot of improvements. And it does feel better. But this is just a drop in the bucket of both in terms of fixing things, polishing things, and still we don't have any features added. So everything I just kind of described, that's it for this update, really. I wasn't told there's anything else. I know someone mentioned about the camera orientation fix. That wasn't fixed in this update, as far as I know. For some people experiencing the camera being better, I don't know what that is.
Yeah, like I saw some people saying, "Oh, the shutter's way faster now." It isn't. It's still super slow for me.
And another one too, and you know more about this. Why Edge still occasionally seems like it sleeps. It takes a while to you hit the icon. It takes 5 to 6 seconds.
That's an Edge issue, though. I don't think that'll be fixed in an OS update. I think that'll be just an app update to Edge. Because I think right now Edge has a set of APIs or something in it that's designed for older versions of Android. And as far as I'm aware, that's interfering with Android 10 and this device specifically. But they can fix that by, I think, either forking the new Edge on Android 10 so that when you press download on the Play Store, it downloads the correct Android 10 version instead of just being one universal app or something along those lines. I don't know. But the Edge team is aware of it as far as I'm concerned. As far as I'm aware, sorry. But not only that, there was another issue that lots of people have been having. The Microsoft Launcher. So the Microsoft Launcher itself, I believe, will eventually be updated through the store. It isn't yet. They're still, I think they're updating it through the OS updates, right, for now.
Yeah, right. So it gets up right now through the firmware and the monthly updates. But they did confirm that it will be going to the Play Store eventually. Just
like on any other Android, which will make updating it faster. And updating the Microsoft Launcher actually solves a lot of initial issues that this device had, mainly with the gestures and sort of just fluidity of the home screen and stuff. A lot of that was improved by manually sideloading the beta versions of the Microsoft Launcher, or even the more recent stable versions that were just on the Play Store. And I believe the October update brings with it a newer build of the Microsoft Launcher. I could be wrong on that, but if I'm wrong, you can just go and sideload the latest launcher build, and it improves a lot of things anyway. So,
yeah, and so I know a lot of people. I've seen some people say like Microsoft should have waited for this update before they released it and all that.
No,
and I get that. I get that sounds good, but a lot of this stuff they're not catching internally. You're only catching it because the device is being sold. Yeah. People are using it. And in very specific situations. Like I've had people on Twitter go like, yeah, now they could fix the widget issue where it's not responding. And I'm like, well, I don't know what you're talking about. And it's like, do this. And he explained I should pin Outlook to one side and scroll and try. And I did. And I had no problems. It worked totally fine. That's not to say he's not exhibiting that problem. I absolutely believe he's exhibiting that problem. But if I can't directly reproduce it, Microsoft's going to have that same issue too, right? Yeah. The ability to reproduce these bugs is how you go about fixing them. Some of them are obvious. You can easily replicate. Others aren't. So that's going to be a challenge for them. And so they can't fix this stuff unless people are using the device, giving feedback, they're getting data logs back from people, all this kind of stuff. So it is a process, and we knew that from the beginning. I tell people, if you don't like, I don't want to say it's unstable. Like I said, I've never had an app crash. I've never had the phone reboot on me. I've never had it like just not work. All my stuff works. There's just little annoyances sometimes that happen. Like my wallpaper disappearing briefly, if I turn it back on again or I change something, is annoying. But like if I'm checking my email or my to-do list or I'm answering a phone call, like the wallpaper being not there is not, it's just annoying. It doesn't critically impact the device. But all this stuff is going to be really fun to watch. Now, things I'm still disappointed in, not necessarily Microsoft's fault, but in general, I'm a little bummed out. A month into this, I've seen 0 apps updated support spanning and dual screens, even from Google, which is, we've seen the maps, but that's like, I don't know if that's a bug or that's I don't know what's going on there, but as soon as you close maps, it doesn't do the spanning thing properly.
Yeah.
But like none of Google's apps have been updated for dual screens. Microsoft hasn't updated Skype or GroupMe or I think what other of their inbox apps that don't support. There's very few. Yeah, LinkedIn, that's another one. Like none of these have been updated yet. And I understand it's a process.
Yeah.
But it's nice to get a new app here and there, right? That does support stuff. What's been bugging you about Duo? Or do you think they could do better on?
I think they need to improve the camera shutter speed dramatically. So, especially if you've got kids or pets, this camera is a no-go. Not because of the camera quality, but because when you press the button to take the photo, it has to think about it for 3 or 4 seconds, unless you're in pure daylight. If you're in a room with a lamp on, which is perfectly normal scenario, it's gonna take you a few seconds before that photo is taken once you've hit the button, and it's not great. Like you will miss shots because of that shutter speed, and then you do that thing where because you press the button and nothing happened, you press it again, and then you take 2 photos. Oh my god, what's happening? And another issue I've found is the device likes to. So when you turn it into single screen mode, let me just close my apps here because I don't want to show anything off. When you turn it into single screen mode, it usually does it pretty well, like it's done it there. But then you get the double tap to use the other screen. Sometimes I will accidentally initiate that double tap and then the screen will move to the other side even though I'm using one screen. I feel like they could easily fix that by turning it from a double tap into something else, like a slide to switch or press here and here to move to the other. It's because a double tap is too easy to initiate. It should be like a clear specific motion that you wouldn't normally do by holding it like this, which I think they could easily change that, but right now it's a double tap, and a lot of the time when I'm switching from dual screen to single screen, I will accidentally initiate the back screen and then I'll have to turn the phone around. It's really annoying.
Yep, I think I've actually experienced that myself too. That actually explains sometimes why my screen I'll be looking at shuts off.
Yeah, because I assume. I mean, I don't know for a fact, but I assume it's because the back screen has detected you've tapped it twice, even though you haven't done that on purpose. It might have detected like 2 different points of your finger touching the screen, just almost at the same time, and thinking that's a double tap, and then switching over. So it's doing as it's told technically, even though it's a little bit too sensitive. So yeah, I think they could change that to like a swipe or a press here and press here, and that would, I think, solve the problem.
Someone's mentioning about they love the physical photo button on Lumia.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. This isn't that device. I'm not sure that's the issue. That said, you can use the power button, I believe.
Yeah, you can double tap the power button to open the camera, and then you can use the volume rocker to take the photo if you really want.
Right. So it's pretty darn close. But being the shape and the form factor of this device, it's when you hold it, you don't really want to be moving your hands around too much, so you don't drop it.
Have you come across any hardware issues or defects on your device?
Oh yeah, we should talk about that. There was reports earlier this week about the USB-C area cracking for some people, which I can totally see. It hasn't happened on my device yet.
Nor mine. But since the reports have came out, I've been looking at my USB-C port every day to make sure.
And it makes sense. I mean, because that is a
very thin bit of
ceramic.
Plastic.
Yeah, it's a polycarbonate ceramic mixture that they've made specifically, and it's made that way so that those are the antenna lines. That said, I feel like around the Type-C area, it should have been metal. because it's so thin. We said before that the display is so thin on Duo. If it was any thinner, they couldn't actually put a Type-C port in there. So it is very thin. And I could see if you plug in and you do it a lot and unfortunately put some weight on that plug going down or up, yeah, I could see that cracking. And it probably needs to be reinforced better. This brings in arguments, of course, for Qi wireless charging, which this doesn't have. It's a benefit of Qi is you're not physically wearing out something. I did do a little review this week and then kind of an article. They do make these little Type-C magnetic chargers. You put in a little Type-C head into your device, and it's mostly flush. It could be better. Like it could be a little bit smoother, smaller.
I think the bumper helps hide it.
Yeah, when you have the bumper, it's basically the same height. And then I have it actually right here. You can kind of see. So this is the red magnetic charger, and then it just connects up there, and unfortunately, but it just connects up, and now it's charging my device. And this will basically prevent you having to stick in the plug every single time you want to charge your device and wear and tear. It's $20. You can find them a lot cheaper. They're all the same. There's like 9,000 Chinese firms that sell these on Amazon. Some are better than others, but that's one solution if you're really kind of concerned about it. I actually like it just for convenience. Like, mind you, they didn't invent these for Surface Duo. In fact, when you buy the kit that I bought, it comes with iPhone adapters, it comes with micro USB, and it comes with Type-C adapters. Because you can use them on all your devices, and it's actually kind of convenient to use. Kind of makes you rethink that this would be a cooler way to do it. I don't know how else Microsoft solves this. It's something they're going to have to figure out. They're going to have to obviously reinforce that. And this is an argument for why this slow staged rollout is actually important, and why it's because as more people, and by the way, if you do have, it does crack. I heard Microsoft is taking care of people under warranty, replacing the device. Even a guy in Australia who has Surface Duo, who obviously didn't buy it from Microsoft Australia since it's not on sale there, but he had it imported. Microsoft is taking care of them. So, good customer service there for that. But they can still technically fix this mid production, right? Yeah. And before it goes wider to other markets. And they may just put a little metal guard around that or do something. I don't know. It does, and how they go forward with this. Part of me wishes it had like a Surface Connect proprietary charger.
Me too.
But you know how people feel about proprietary chargers.
And it's a nightmare for a phone. Right, because a phone, like, you take it with you. You don't want to take a Surface charger with you. Like, it's easier just to go to a friend and say, "You got a charger?" Like, yeah, cool.
Yeah, and so and they had that discussion internally, because I'm sure that definitely came up. And even with this, like, if I do find a Type-C charger, I can just pull this out. Of course, you have to be careful, but so that's one solution if you're curious. But yeah, these are the things they're going to learn on a Gen 1 device. So. The other issue is the yellowing,
mine isn't so bad. I think it's definitely there. You probably can't see it, but it's definitely not terrible. Yeah. I can live with that.
This was in my review. During our pool of reviewers with Microsoft, I was the only one that reported this issue or complained about it.
Yeah.
I've talked about this on the announcement podcast that we did on Duo. But mine yellowed pretty quickly. Microsoft's aware of it. Apparently, I've heard someone explain that when you're mixing these kind of plastics and ceramics, the way things get balanced and the mixture comes out, it can actually have different properties in terms of its effectiveness.
It's luck of the draw.
Yeah, and so I think that's why very few devices have it. But if you do have it, you notice it. Microsoft's also on this idea that, which probably isn't wrong, a lot of people are going to install bumpers on their device. They do give you a bumper out of the box. And if that's the case, you're not going to really see the yellowing. Mm-hmm. But that's another thing they're going to have to fix with version 1.5, version 2.0, and going forward. So, but I haven't had too many other issues. Battery life's been really good. I'm still using it. It is still my daily phone. I've mentioned before, on the weekends, I'm on this thing 5-6 hours a day. I still love it. It's still my favorite thing, but it is a version 1, and there's a lot that needs to be done in terms of software, apps, improvement, performance, and all that kind of stuff. So,
Yeah.
but at least we now know these monthly updates. It's something to look forward to. So hopefully, maybe next month it'll be even better.
Yeah.
So I think that about does it. Unless you have anything else you want to.
No, I guess we could briefly mention the Xbox Series X marketing campaign and Series S has started. Microsoft has released their sort of trailer for the holiday, sort of celebrating Xbox Series X and S. And the only reason I'm mentioning it is because it's basically stars the Master Chief, which is somewhat of a problem because the Xbox Series X and S is launching without a flagship Halo title, which wasn't the plan originally, of course. Early this year, when obviously all these marketing plans were greenlit, the idea was that the Halo Infinite was going to launch alongside the Series X and S and be the flagship blockbuster launch title for the next generation of Xbox. And then 343 delayed Halo Infinite into next year. So all of those plans were sort of, what do we do now? And I guess the decision was, well, we go ahead because we've already put millions of dollars into this trailer and everything else. So yeah, they released a trailer. It's a good trailer. Don't get me wrong. It's a really nice. It's very cinematic and whatnot. I believe it stars the guy from Get Out. I saw a few people saying on Twitter, which is super cool. Or same guy from one of the Black Mirror episodes as well. I can't remember his name now. Yeah, and it's a really nice trailer. If you haven't checked it out, I definitely recommend you go look at it on YouTube. Power Your Dreams, I think, is the tagline for the Series X and S. And yeah, we are getting close. We are almost exactly a month away from the next generation consoles launching. Some reviewers and influencers have them already, which is super nice.
I believe one Jez Corden has one.
Yes, our Jez Corden does have one. He's been testing his out. I don't know how much we can say, but
well, he did put the article up regarding the expandable storage.
Yeah, so obviously we know it has expandable storage, but I think he's really enjoying it so far, and obviously his review will be up whenever the embargo for that lifts.
I think, and there's also an article up on the site today regarding resumes and the rapid resumes, how it's like changed the way he's kind of gamed in his behavior.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, I think it's a kind of a big deal in this kind of stuff. So, yeah, all very cool stuff. I haven't seen the ad yet, but I'm going to go do that later today. All right, well, I guess that wraps it up for this podcast. Almost at 90 minutes here. It was all that pizza talk that did it. But we're going to now do some Q&A with the audience. If you guys have questions, you can start firing them off now. We'll try to answer them. But for those listening to this recorded, of course, you don't get to hear that part. My apologies, but it's just too awkward and weird, but it's always fun. So if you want to join in on that, it's Fridays, 2:30 p.m. Eastern time on youtube.com/Windows Central, where you can watch the live video broadcast as well as our chat room. You can also go back and rewatch old episodes there if you're into that kind of thing. Otherwise, follow me on Twitter at Daniel_Rubino, Rubino, and follow Zach at ZACBOWDEN, where you can always find out the latest news and things we're working on, as well as ask us questions there. Again, thanks for tuning in, and we'll be back next week. Take care, everybody.
Cool. So if you do have questions, now's the time to ask. Did you guys talk anything on Bing being rebranded to Microsoft Bing? We mentioned it briefly. There's really not much to say about it. Microsoft is putting its name on everything that they do, so why not Bing as well?
Yeah, I like it. I think it's good.
I'm indifferent.
Yeah, I mean, it's something I don't think about more in a few seconds. But
PS5 or Xbox? Xbox, because it's clearly the better console.
PC.
Nintendo Switch.
Yeah, actually, that's Nintendo Switch is the real winner.
Yeah. Do you think Microsoft will release a single screen phone for budget consumers? No. They will refer you to the Samsung A series for that.
Or just go buy a Pixel.
Or go buy a Pixel.
I mean, that budget stuff is very tough. One, there's already a lot of good options. The margins are very thin there. That said, I mean, they're Surface Laptop Go, Surface Go. Those are budget.
Yeah, I mean, they are building a slow portfolio of low-end budget devices. But I don't see the Duo being part of. I don't see a Surface Duo Go in the future, but only because It's an inspirational. It's similar like the Studio. I don't think we'll ever see a Surface Studio Go either. Because it's like
Surface Studio.
Like I tell you why they've done it for the tablet and the laptops, because they're the two sort of biggest form factors, like the most common mainstream form factors: tablet, laptop. The Studio is like a weird sort of desktop all-in-one, which isn't really a huge market anymore. The Duo obviously is a market of its own. The Book is a weird thing, weird two-in-one as well. Like I feel like those are the more inspirational, high-end stuff that have the high entry-level prices and whatnot. And I think Microsoft will keep it like that. And I don't see them making a single screen phone because it just doesn't fit in with their portfolio, which, to be fair, we did say the same about the Surface laptop when it was first announced, but Microsoft doesn't want to be in the phone business. You've got to remember that, more importantly.
Also, the whole spiel about Surface Duo is that dual screens changes the way you interact with the device, which it absolutely does. And everybody who
them releasing a single screen phone would literally just be like them saying, "Oh, we were wrong."
That's no big deal. Because all the reviews on Reddit and stuff like that have been pretty positive from people who've used this, just like we've said, where it really changes the way you interact with the stuff. So to undercut that would be kind of weird. So that said, I'd like to see a Surface Laptop Pro at some point, and I think they have room to do that kind of device. But they don't have to worry, because it could solve problems with the Book design. The Book design is naturally limiting on thermals and processors, what they can do there.
If you look at the hinge on the Duo and the Neo, could they not just take that same hinge and put it onto the laptop and call that the Surface Book 4?
Sure. So the problem with doing that, though, so the benefit it's with the Surface Book is when you pop off that display, it's a 1.2-pound tablet.
Yeah, but I feel like the people using that, like there's so few people using that feature.
Possibly. I mean, we don't have the data on it. We don't know. But
no, I know.
I mean, that's an interesting separate discussion. But I think that's a counter argument, because if you're carrying around a 3.5-pound, 4 pounds, I don't like a lot of 15-inch convertibles. HP makes one.
Yeah.
It's cool, but man, you flip that screen around, it's a beast to hold. It's just not something. I get the other modes, tent mode, the movie watching mode where you flip the screen. I get that kind of, and that's where it's useful. But if you want to use it as like a tablet, it's too meaty or popping off the display. But you're right. I mean, I don't know if a lot of people are actually doing that. So,
when are we going to see Surface Laptop Go reviews? Well, the product launches October 13th, so I would assume on that day. Could be before then. Who knows? Someone's asking. Sorry, go ahead.
About Gcam. They're asking for using Gcam on Surface Duo. Not really. So the official kind of Gcam Google camera thing doesn't really work well on Duo. It's the image is backwards or upside down, and it stutters and process. Like, it's not. You can install it. You can technically snap a photo. It's not something you're going to switch to as your daily camera by a long mile. It's just not there yet. There's a Gcam Go, which does work, and it's actually not bad. It's pretty fast. It's actually a faster shutter, which is nice. It does have night sight on it, so you can do night modes. But the actual image quality of like regular shots, as far as Zach and I've kind of tested,
it's not better.
Not that much better.
No.
Yeah, I mean, I have had some photos which have a little bit more detail in them, but it's not like night and day. There's also no HDR in that Go, which is kind of the secret sauce that's going on there. And the night sight is basically just doing sort of like, I think, multiple exposures really kind of quickly and then stacking the images. And it absolutely does give you night shots or low light shots where you wouldn't have one before, but the quality is still noisy. And I feel like it's missing a lot of sort of the AI magic that a true like Pixel is doing. But there is an effort for Gcam to be ported to Duo. I'm following it. If there's progress, we'll report on it. It is something that I think can be an option for some people. But there's still just limits there.
Yeah. All Windows 10 PWA apps are based on the old Edge engine, right? So how do they plan to realize PWA apps on Windows 10X? So developers can use something called WebView 2 in their PWAs that will bring with it the updated rendering engine that the new Edge uses. And as far as I'm aware, that works on 10X as well. So that's how.
Someone saying Surface Book's design needs a total reinvention, which is hilarious considering no one else has been able to actually make that kind of design and how insane that design is. For them to like completely redesign it, I think is a little, I don't know. They're very proud of that device. And it sells well, but yeah.
What about hinge problems with the Duo? I read that dirt was getting in the hinges and the hinge wasn't laying flat. My hinge is fine. The hinge does get dirty, don't get me wrong. If you take a closer look, you can definitely see that there's like, it does collect dirt, but it doesn't affect the usability of it.
Yeah, I don't think anything's getting into the hinge. The hinge is sealed on this. Yeah. That's not to say there aren't reports. There's a few, not a lot, but there are a few of like the hinge failing on some devices.
Oh, really? I'm not seeing that.
Yeah, on Reddit there was one person who said like, it was like one half of the hinge was like not working, and yeah, it was a failure. I mean, it's a moving part, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to have 100% non-failure rate on a moving part like that. Mine feels exactly how it did out of the box. It hasn't changed. The resistance is the same. It's holding up very well. But I'm not worried about dirt getting in there. I mean, I guess you can get like, there's always that concern of getting like dirt or anything in there. You're closing the device. I think it's a bigger deal for like the folding, Samsung stuff. But
will Windows 10 X be something you can download, or is it something that comes on specific hardware? It's something that will be launching on specific hardware. There won't be an ISO you can download and install onto your existing PC. There may be an insider program where you can flash an image of Windows 10 X onto a list of supported devices that already exist, like the Surface Go 2, the Surface Laptop Go perhaps, stuff like that. But there will be no official release for those products. The only way you'll be able to get Windows 10 X officially is through buying new hardware that has Windows 10 X pre-installed. Does the beta launcher on Duo let you change icons, or is it still locked down? It's still locked down. You still can't change the icons.
Qualcomm is making their own gaming phone. I haven't heard that, but Qualcomm doesn't sell direct to customers at all. They don't have any marketing. They don't have any distribution. They don't have B2B. They don't have business deals. I don't see how that's possible. Everything, the customer for Qualcomm has always been OEMs, not direct. I'd be very shocked if they went to business themselves to sell products.
Someone was asking, do you think Windows 10 X will be able to compete with Chromium OS when the Chrome OS can run Android apps? What exclusive features can Windows 10 X give? So running Android apps on Chrome OS is not a selling point. It is a feature that it has that is there for if you need it, but nobody buys a Chromebook because it runs Android apps. Windows 10 X's exclusive feature in that case is the fact that it can run Win32 programs through the cloud at first, but eventually locally as well. Chrome OS can't do that. And I'd argue that Win32 programs are infinitely more valuable on a PC, like a Surface Neo or any other device in the future running Windows 10 X, than it is running Android apps. Android apps are mobile apps. I would never. I can run Android apps on my PC if I really want to, and I don't because it sucks. Android apps are designed for small screens, phone-sized screens, like on the Surface Duo. They're not designed for big 13 to 15-inch displays, like on laptops and whatnot. So I will, that's my 2 cents on the matter.
I should do a review of Duo after 6 months, then a year. I've already announced numerous times I'm going to be doing a review 3 months, 6 months, 12 months on Duo in terms of how it's progressing. All that kind of stuff. So we're definitely going to be doing that. And I'm sure Zach will probably do some stuff to share his thoughts. The Surface Duo 2 in development. Again, I've said this numerous times in the podcast. Zach knows.
Yes.
Answer yes. We expect late 2021, October and November, like every other Surface event. It could be announced then. But it depends. Depends on a lot of things.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's right.
A Chromebook that runs Android apps can play xCloud games. Microsoft is working on an xCloud client for PCs, which will run on 10X as well. And in addition to that, even if that wasn't coming, Microsoft is also working on a web-based version of xCloud that would work on Windows 10X as well.
Serious question. Why are 3x2 desktop monitors not a thing? Well, obviously Surface Studio, that's the one thing. I think it's because innovation in desktop monitors is still focused mostly on visual acuity and clarity and accuracy and all that kind of stuff. I just did a whole thing about ultra wides, which is kind of a pretty popular trend. It's the same reason why in laptops it's taken a long time. It has a lot of times to do with a company like LG makes its own panels, right? So they get to design their own products. But until they decide a 3x2 is something that people are going to want, or there's demand for it, or businesses start asking for it. But even on this podcast, I've said, as much as I love 3x2 or 16x10, it becomes less of a big deal on larger displays. Like, I'm obviously on an ultra wide right now. I don't feel like this needs to be a 3x2 aspect ratio. On 13 inches, it's such a big deal for me. Like, I actually find it difficult now to use a 16:9 13-inch device or smaller. But on desktops, 27, 24, 27, 34, 38 inches, all this kind of stuff, I don't think it's that big of a deal, but the market may eventually shift. We'll have to wait and see.
Do you think that we'll likely see an update to Surface with Surface Neo when we find out more about Windows 10X? I doubt it. I think the next time Microsoft officially talks about Windows 10X, it will be in the context of single-screen PCs only. I do not expect them to talk about Surface Neo again until they're ready to release it, which we're hearing won't be until at the end of next year. The earliest, more likely, spring 2022.
Is Microsoft aware of the glitchy connection between Duo and screen sharing with my phone? My phone, you mean your phone, desktop app. Mine constantly fails. I don't know if they're aware of that because this is the first time I've ever heard of someone mentioning that issue. I don't have that problem on my device. I feel like your phone in general and Duo needs to be improved a lot. It's still a couple steps behind where Samsung is. Part of that is because of it doesn't have the apps feature, it has the screen feature, which is what you're talking about. And it's because it's a dual screen device, and how they handle that with launching apps is different. But I haven't had that problem personally, but I think in general, your phone needs to get faster and better on Duo. I use it. I don't love it. I actually feel like if you use, well, this depends. I use, what's it called? HP Quick Drop. Quick Drop is a single word, because they're clever like that. This is only good for HP computers, obviously. So I'm on an HP desktop gaming rig. And it's a system that uses Wi-Fi Direct and allows me to share files, URLs, messages between my phone and my PC. And it's very fast. I use that a lot of times for sending photos back and forth because it's still technically faster than your phone. And when it comes to text messaging, I have to admit that Google's web messages for the web, is actually a really good feature.
Yeah.
You can actually go to Microsoft Edge, log in, you pair it with your phone, and then you create an app using the PWA feature in Edge, and it looks just like a standalone web app, but your instant messages or your SMS messages are very quick on it. I think it even does like the live chat RCS stuff now, but it's I find that stuff a little bit more reliable and faster than your phone. That's not saying that Microsoft can't improve. It works well on Samsung, but yeah.
Someone was asking how will how will Microsoft encourage developers to commit to 10x? They don't need to, because 10x runs all the same applications that Windows 10 runs. I think what you're asking is how will Microsoft encourage developers to commit to dual screens on Windows 10X when that eventually comes? And the answer to that is by releasing the APIs and crossing their fingers. There's really not much they can do. It's not the end of the world if a developer doesn't support dual screens, because that app will still run just fine on a single screen. Just is the same on the Surface Duo. 99.9% of apps on Android do not support dual screens, but they run just fine in single screen mode on the Duo. The same will be for Windows 10X, I think.
Anything new about a band or Surface Watch? Nope. We've talked about this on the podcast a lot. They probably have something they're thinking about could be a wearable, but there's no inclination that it's going to launch or it's imminent. But who knows? Can the future Surface Pro have Ryzen CPU? It could. It
I
won't.
doubt it. Yeah.
Said it before in this podcast. They don't swap processors brands mid-production of a line of device. They'll add a new device, like a Surface Laptop 15 with an AMD, but they're not going to swap out AMD for Intel. Intel still has some advantages, sometimes in pricing, sometimes in support, sometimes in engineering that Microsoft benefits from. But AMD isn't a slam dunk across all areas that are important to Microsoft and when it comes to making a device. But no, do not expect Surface Pro to go AMD anytime soon.
Will Microsoft List or Microsoft Stream ever make it to the consumer version of Microsoft 365? I don't know. It would be nice, but I have no idea.
The Edge installs an app works better than a Twitter app on desktop. The same for Facebook. Yeah, that's the PWA. That has to do with the web view stuff that Zach was talking about. I prefer. By the way, speaking of Twitter, there was Fennis 5 is now out, a UWP app on the Microsoft Store. It's actually really nice. It's like a TweetDeck client. So if you're into that, that's fine. I'm actually fine just using the regular Twitter app, and I use the web version through Edge as a PWA because it's fast, it's reliable, it does what I need it to do. And yeah, you can do it for Facebook and all that. I use a lot of PWAs that way.
Is Bing Maps ever coming to Android with Cortana directions? I'm not aware of any plans to bring Bing Maps to Android, and if it does happen, I very much doubt it will be with Cortana directions.
Yeah, I'm pretty positive that's not ever going to happen. I'm actually surprised Microsoft Maps is still a thing. I mean, I like it. I'm glad it's there. I'm not dissing it. I like having it on Windows. Sometimes I need to look up something. I'm planning out a day trip or something like that. I love having the native app, but they don't need to really. They can't compete on Android with that stuff.
What about Neo? They deleted videos from YouTube, so Neo is cancelled or delayed until 2021, 2022. Neo is delayed, not cancelled, at least as of the last time we heard from Microsoft, which was a few weeks ago. Panos Panay said in an interview that Neo was delayed. We don't know until when, but internal schedules suggest late 2021, early 2022.
Do you think Microsoft did a good job at explaining Series S is mostly targeted at people with full HD TVs and X for 4K? I don't know. Still early. We haven't really seen that much marketing around these things. They're not on sale yet. I think people can figure this stuff out. Listen, if consumers can figure out NVIDIA cards for their PCs between the RTX, the GTX, the 2060s, the 3070s, and the 3080s, and the Founders Editions. If consumers can figure that stuff out, they can figure out two Xboxes that are new to the market and who they're best aimed at. I'm not really too concerned about this. I think a lot of people focus too much on the messaging and all this kind of stuff. The only thing that matters about any device, the first thing you need to ask is not, what are they calling it? Is the marketing good? Is just this. Is it a good product? Because if it's a good product, it's really nice. Those things are important. The other things are important, but you got to nail that first thing first. That takes care of a lot of your issues. Same with Surface Duo. Doesn't matter if it's called Duo. They could have called it Surface Phone. Should they do more marketing? Maybe. I haven't seen a single commercial for Surface Duo. Does that matter? What matters actually is, does Duo live up to its hype and what it's supposed to do? That's the only thing that really matters.
Right, a few more questions, then I do have to head off. You guys haven't talked about the possible Microsoft Nokia deal, but not with H&D Global, but with the real Nokia Telecoms for 5G. Yeah.
There's no evidence that this is happening.
Yeah, but again, like Microsoft has acquired 5G sort of companies already, so it's not out of the realm of impossibility. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, like, you got to remember, although they are Nokia, they're Nokia only in name. This isn't the same company that they acquired in 2014, so it wouldn't be like, oh, they're getting back into phones. That's not what the acquisition would mean at all.
Yeah, like I said, there's no rumors or talks There's no evidence that anything's happening. All this was an analyst going, it could make sense for Microsoft to buy that. And especially because to head off China and Huawei and their 5G and stuff like that. I mean, there's an analysis there, and I think it's true, but I don't want to get ahead of that and start as a rumor that Microsoft's in talks to buy the remains of Nokia. Like, that's definitely not what we know so far. And even if that deal does go through, I'm a shrug. There's a lot of acquisitions that Microsoft does that.
No one talks about.
Release on the site, and it's just not stuff we cover or interested in. It's important. It's just not to us.
Microsoft is planning to realize x86 64-bit app emulation ARM, but it will be so slow. What's the point? Well, we don't know it will be so slow. I assume the reason it wasn't there originally was because they couldn't get the performance right. If Microsoft is ready to announce it, then they must have improved something. I'm not saying it'll be blazing fast, but I don't know if it'll be so slow. I think it will be just like the x86 emulation. In which case it's fine for most things. Some programs will be slower than others. Some will behave like normal. So yeah, I think it's fine. I think the point is that those who need those 64-bit apps on the Surface Pro X can now run them without having to buy another device.
What happened to Microsoft Store? I don't know what the question here is. Do you mean the physical stores, the online stores? If so, what about them? Obviously, the physical stores are going away because of the pandemic, and they weren't doing that good anyway. So I don't know what else. I don't know what you're actually asking.
What other features or UI can come to 10x from Windows 10? Can come from Windows 10x to 10 desktop? Just the stuff we've really mentioned already: the Action Center, rounded corners on things, the new out-of-box experience, perhaps the new Task View UI. Some of the 10x app experiences, maybe. Who knows? But yeah, I do not expect to see the start menu, unfortunately.
Do you think Microsoft is working on something to compete with Apple AR glasses? They're obviously doing mixed reality, which is still a big deal for them, more so for enterprise and business. And they're obviously still doing augmented reality with HoloLens 2, which is still seeing a lot of momentum. Again, enterprise professionals. Will they bring that tech to the consumers through like a Surface glasses? Yeah, probably. They built out the entire framework already for it. It's already there. It's being used by hospitals, by schools, by engineers, right? So it's already being used. The question is more about shrinking down the technology. We mentioned this before, where Apple already solved the CPU problem for its glasses. It's its iPhone. Every iPhone is going to be the actual computer. The glasses themselves will just be a conduit and have a connection to the phone. And because Apple's they just have to worry about their own hardware. They can make that a proprietary connection. It'll be very fast and low latency. Microsoft's going to have a different problem to contend with, which is they only have one phone. It's on Android. It's not a very powerful device either. I don't know. There's like different. I think Apple will still go into the consumer-only kind of way, and artists and creative nerds. But I think Microsoft will probably take more of a professional approach to it, whatever that means. I think we're still a few years out from this stuff, though. So, I mean, we can't. VR is just flagging. It's just not going anywhere. There's still.
It's found its market. It's found its niche. Like I don't think there's any growth there. I think it has its market. It's a viable market for very few select companies. But there's no growth there until you can put that technology into AR that sits on a pair of normal glasses, or even a contact lens or something like that. When we get into sci-fi territory, that's when it becomes viable to a much larger audience. But right now, with the big headsets and whatnot, and the super high starting prices for AR like HoloLens and whatnot, it's not going to go anywhere else. I think it's reached its peak market, and now we're waiting for the technology to evolve before it becomes more mainstream.
I mean, and speaking of, just Google just this week, we probably should have covered this. Maybe we'll talk about it next week. Just killed its Daydream project.
Yeah.
And Google's notorious. I mean, people make fun of Microsoft for canceling things soon. I mean, okay, fair, but there's like go Google or Bing search Google Graveyard, and you'll see all the things that Google has canceled. Now you can add Daydream to that. Daydream was the ability to use your Android phone as powering your AR VR system. They would have, remember they had like the cardboard was a really cheap version, and then they had like the Sony ones, and you just drop your phone in there, and boom, you got your own VR system. And listen, I've used it a couple times. It was pretty darn cool. Like, it was amazing what they were able to pull off with that, and it was a smart initiative. I mean, the cardboard, they're like schools can use this. It's a new form of learning, and people with not a lot of money, you can just jump into VR now. I mean, Samsung was behind it. Samsung was giving away those glass. I actually have one downstairs with their devices. So it's like I feel like it did everything right, and the market still went, shrug, and that was it. Like I don't know. I feel like this category is super tough.
Yeah.
And Zach's right. It just has to be regular glasses, kind of what North was by Focals,
Yeah.
or North or Focals by North, which Google
So,
bought.
and that's what Apple's rumored to be working on, right? A pair of like AR glasses.
Yep. So
Right, I think that's enough because I do have to head off. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. We'll be back next Friday, as always. The Surface Laptop Go comes out next week, so I assume we'll have a review. That'll be fun, so that'll be a good episode to listen to. Follow us on Twitter. We'll keep you updated when we go live and all of that good stuff. But until then, we shall see you next time. Bye.
bye.